everybody. Welcome to Summer Reading Week 2. This week we're going to make a pair of woven coasters. You say, Miss Karissa, that does not look anything like it. It's woven, not a coaster. There's a reason for that. I learned a valuable lesson. I want you guys to learn it. First, I used twine. Okay, twine is very stiff and very coarse. And while I think it could work very easily for this project, when I made my first loom, I didn't give myself enough space to actually work. Now, a coaster would be about this big, right? So you think, oh, well, that's definitely big enough. No. Even if I start my weaving here, that only leaves me this much room to tie knots. This twine is way too stiff to allow me to do that. Second, when I started this is not wide enough for a coaster. Sure, according to my drawing, it might be, but in reality, if I have a cup, or in this case, a jar, you will see this doesn't really fit, okay? This is way too small. Now I realize I could have continued weaving, made it a little bit longer, but then I got to the bottom and had the exact same problem I had at the top. I did not have enough yarn or enough twine to tie. Plus, the twine is so stiff that even if I do tie it in a knot, it goes all crazy and jankety and wonky, and it's not cool, and I don't like it, and it makes me unhappy. So, this shows you it can be done. But now, and this is neat because you can actually make 2 per loom, so that's going to be nice. But we're going to start fresh. The first thing we're going to do is get a bigger piece of cardboard, way bigger than I need, okay? I'm going to see if I can draw this up a hair. There we go. Sorry about the motion there. I know that can be a little discombobulating. Much longer, much wider. As you weave, you can see here, it gets narrower whether you want it to or not. So when I started, it was the width I wanted. When I finished, it was, probably only maybe 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, but that's enough to annoy me. Probably not enough to annoy you. You guys are in much better shape than I am. But it's still not what I wanted, okay? So I got a much bigger piece of cardboard. To make your loom, and I'm going to bring you back down for this, and I apologize, I know. To make your loom, you have to make little cuts in your cardboard, okay? They recommend 1/2 centimeter. And I said, oh, well, we're in America. Most people don't like the metric as much as I do. I used to work with metric all the time, so I'm a big fan. Get a pen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in about 3 centimeters and put a mark, okay? And then I'm going to mark every 1/2 centimeter. Yes, this makes it very tight, but that's what we want for our weft. Our warp? I don't know. There are 2 words that you use in weaving. One is warp and one is weft. I'm pretty sure this is how we warp, okay? We're going to warp drive this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and I'm going to do one more. Because one thing I also discovered, I had 16 here, but when I turn it, I still have 2 that I have tails on this side that are not going to be used. So I'm going to give myself an extra one. Here's the thing. Even if I don't use this, it can be there just as convenience. Okay. So once I have that, I'm going to flip this guy around. Okay. I could either turn my ruler over and do it this way, which could be a little confusing, or line this up, make sure that I've got an even number. So in this case, instead of moving over 3, 1, 2, 3, I'm still going to do that. Check. I did that. Okay. So, because I want these guys to be lined up with each other. Okay. No, this one right here. Okay. And then every half centimeter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and one to grow on. That one's optional. We're going to ignore this guy. Okay. So these guys are lined up. Okay. We've got marks on this side. We've got marks on this side. I'm going to come in with my scissors and I'm going to cut. And I'm going to give myself a little bit more length to work with, because over here, pull this off so you can see, I didn't give myself much space lengthwise. Widthwise, exactly the same. Lengthwise, I just didn't have a lot to work with. And I think making these cuts a little bit deeper is going to be helpful. Now, in the kit that you're going to get from the library, I figure you've got cardboard lying about. Okay, I'm not going to give you cardboard, but I am going to give you some cotton twine or cotton string to use as your warp material, okay? Because, oh, we're almost there. Because I don't want you to do what I did and just find what you have around and then see if it works, because it's not going to work, and then you're going to be sad and stressed, and nobody wants that, okay? Okay, so I've cut these down probably about half an inch, maybe, 1/4 of an inch, something like that. The other thing that's going to be in your pack is a plastic needle. Now this one is not long enough. That's okay. I've got longer ones for you guys. When I first started this, I tried to use a paper clip, and I unwound it this far, and I thought, okay, well, it's pretty straight and it's got a hook on this end that I can pull my yarn through. It's going to be great. It's going to work. Technically, it worked. Practically, it took 80 million and a half years to actually get the job done, because it would get stuck. That hook would go under the strings and it would get stuck, so I would be halfway there and it would get caught. Okay. Because as you know, with weaving, you're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and having to wait and back up and unwind every 10 seconds is super annoying. Okay? So, my piece of cardboard is about 9 inches long and almost 7 inches wide, but I'm only going to be using about 4 inches of that to make my coaster. Okay, it just gives me something to work with and something to hang on to, and both of those things will make everything a lot easier. I have some string that I'm going to use, and it's going to take a bit, but that's okay. Okay. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to give myself a little tail over here. There we go. And I'm going to bring it through each of these grooves and just wind top, bottom, top, bottom. And we're just going to go the entire up and down all of these things. Okay? Top, bottom. So it's always coming up the back. Oops. Say, Miss Karissa, pay attention to what you're doing. I know, right? And this is creating these really nice lines that we're going to use. Now this I'm pulling it a little tight. Not too bad. See, it's not so strong that we can strum it like a guitar. But it's tight enough that this will be easier to do. So around the bottom and around the top. I apologize for all the time you're spending just looking at a random piece of cardboard with some string around it. Ugh, let go. But we are going to get there. This is the big thing, is how to, whoops, pay attention to what you're doing. So much yarn, guys. So much yarn this summer. Okay. The nice thing is these slits really hold it in place. Okay, so you're not going to have to worry about it coming unwound when you let go. And I'm not pulling it so tight that it's going to break, but I am pulling it tight enough that it's going to stay strung. And that's the other reason, giving them a nice deep groove to fit in is actually going to save me trouble in the long run. Okay, and we're almost there, and we're almost, and there. Okay. See, you can reuse cardboard. This is easy. This guy comes over here. If you want to tape them down, you can. That is completely optional. You have that choice. Then, and this is the thing I think is kind of cool. They say you can put your ruler under here to give you a base, so you know where you're going to, so everything's going to be square. So your weaving is going to be flat with your yarn, okay? Now, if you're going to estimate, I'm going to do probably about 8 lines of this first yarn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? Not exact. You saw I'm actually measured over. I'm cutting this a little bit long because I'm going to need a tail. I've lost my needle. There it is. Okay. This needle, and like I said, this will also be in the pack. You get to keep it. You don't have to bring it back. Will save you so much time. Because even if your needle isn't long enough to go all the way, it is long enough to go at least part of the way. That's so much easier. Now, you will see in some of the tutorials that we have on our Pinterest page, they suggested using a fork or a pick, like you use in your hair. I wouldn't use a comb, that would be too fine, but you can use a pick to kind of pull everything down. And that's what you'd use the beater for if you had a giant loom. You'd have that big beater that, you know, if you ever go to places like Williamsburg and you see all the stuff. I love the weaving. It's just fascinating. This is obviously nowhere near as complex, and that's okay. So you go over one side and under the other, and then on the way back, you do it the opposite. Okay. Oops. It's the other nice thing. Even if your needle comes off of there, it's super easy. This has got a huge eye in it. It's so easy to restring. Pull this guy through. Do not pull it tight, okay? I would even hang on this end a little bit. When you start to pull it down, don't let it pull tight. If you pull it tight, it's going to make your life harder in the long run. That's the other thing I learned from this sad little thing. I started pulling it tight. Then I did a thing where I went every other color, which you can't see in this. But trust me, it went red, orange, red, orange. They're just really close in hue. And if I pulled it too tight, when I tried to do the second one, my whole world was messed up. It wasn't a good time. Okay. When I get to the end, you'll see this one was easy. It just went from under. Now I'm over. So I'm going to loop underneath and go back the other way. Okay. And you say, Miss Karissa, why are we doing this whole thing? Well, we're doing this whole thing because, see, that's about far enough, and I'll pull you through and then finish. Because here in a moment, sorry about that, and again, do not let it pull itself tight. Any tension is going downward, okay? Yeah, we want it to be snug. We don't want it to be just out of control. Okay. One more, one more. Over the top. The reason that I'm keeping you around instead of just cutting to the next part, because I'm not gonna make you watch me do this whole thing. Not only would it take like an hour, but by the end of it, you guys would be like, I will never ever watch Miss Karissa do anything again. It is so time consuming. Yep. Okay. Catch my little end. Pull that guy. And again, I can just use my fingernails. It doesn't bother me. I can also, if I wanted to use a hair pick or a popsicle stick or anything to pull it down, that's great. I'm going to do one more row the other way, and then we're going to start with a second color, okay? This is the bit that threw me off. It took me reading through like 2 or 3 different tutorials to teach me how to do this because it didn't make any sense until it did, and then it was like magic. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to pause this. I'm actually going to bring this up just a hair further, but I don't want you to have to watch me do this. So if you guys hang on one moment, I will be right back to show you how to do a second color with your first. Okay, so I did a couple more rows. It's still not quite as tall as I was thinking, but you know what? It's good to go, and we're going to learn a very valuable lesson here. As you see, I have run out of twine. I don't have enough to keep going. That's okay. I'm going to unwind some more, and instead of trying to knot things and make it all better, what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to start a new piece of string. I'm all the way at the end of my row, so starting the next round is going to be really, really easy because it's right there. Just cut some of that. We'll see what happens. The only thing is I want to be sure, and you got to be sure with this tail as well, that it doesn't get woven in somewhere. Or else you're going to be in a world of hurt, and then you're going to be annoyed, and then you're going to blame me. And nobody wants that, especially me. All right. So this guy, we're going to pretend that this had wrapped over. So we're going to go under, over, under, over. And like I said, at the end of all of this, I'll show you how to weave in your ends so they kind of disappear, and it's like magic. Okay? But we're not there yet. We have a long way to go. And the thing that I forgot to show you, because as I said, we're going to make a pair of coasters. When you strung this loom, you actually did 2 looms because your other side is all ready to go. So once you finish the first side, all you have to do is flip it over and start the second. It's like magic, okay? So all that effort we put into at the beginning, we don't have to do it again. Okay. So I've done another row. Now I want to do another color. So I have this orange. It's a lighter orange than I had before. I kind of like it a little bit better. It's interesting to watch these go back and forth because you would think, okay, well, if you start it here and you do the opposite of everything, it's going to work. It doesn't. And I was really shocked. That's what I figured out the first time. Had to watch like 3 or 4 tutorials. When you start your second color, you need to start it the other direction, okay? And then it worked. And I don't know, this is how it worked for me. I don't know if it's going to work for you. And again, we're just going to cut off a chunk of yarn chunk O yarn. That's definitely long enough. All right. So since this would then wrap under, I'm going to go the opposite. Nope, I'm going to do, so the opposite of the row before. This is the other place where having a needle makes everything easier. Trust me, because trying to organize 2 pieces of string, very difficult when you're using a paper clip. Now, if you have a second needle around your house, you are welcome to use that. I only have one in here with me, so that makes that a little trickier, but that's okay. And be sure that you don't get your yarn wound around yourself. Okay. So I'm starting my orange layer, but I want to continue with my red because I'm fancy. So if I want to continue with my red, I'm going to come back to this side, the same side. I have so much yarn. Okay, let me thread my needle. Okay, I'm going to go around this yarn. Okay. That's what I did wrong. Okay, sorry about that. Minor freak out on my part, but see, this is the problem with doing new things, is sometimes you have that moment where you're like, but everything I do is wrong. But you know what? We're okay. So, I wrapped this end around my little piece of yarn. My little tail guy is going to stay over here. If I had some tape, I could tape it down. I don't have any tape, so we're going to make do. Once I got all the way to the end, I'm going to switch yarns. So I'm going to pull my orange back up. So I did a row of orange going this way, and then I did my red going the same direction. Now I'm going to go the other way. So I'm going to do both strings. So you're going to switch back and forth if you want to do it this way. Now you can just switch the way that we changed the yarn, where you just ended over here and started the next. You could do stripes going up, do your next color, and you're good to go. I decided I kind of wanted to have like a little fancy ombre effect. So we're going to try it. All right. This is over. I'm going to wrap my yarn over the top. And so you'll see, it looks like my orange is doing the exact same thing it did before. And that is okay. That's actually kind of what we want. Because that's how we're going to get the effect that we're looking for. Now, we have a lot of tutorials saved on our Pinterest page that show a lot of different techniques, because there's lots of cool stuff you can do. It's not just over and under, back and forth. Sometimes you can do like a cool braiding thing. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff you can do. You just have to have the patience to do it. Okay. Remember, don't pull this tight, because as soon as you pull that tight, your world is going to be full of hurt, and everybody's going to be sad, and nobody wants that. Okay. Pull that down. And we're ready for our red thread. Going from the same side that we just left. Okay. Now you'll see, since this is hooked here, that was an under, so I'm going to go over and over and under and over and under and over and under. Okay, keep my little pieces of yarn over here so they don't get mixed in. Okay, tamp that down. You can give it another little tug. Okay, and then we switch back to our orange. Okay, so our orange is going to wrap, in this case, over the top of that and go back under, and we're going to go all the way back again. And we're going to keep doing that for a couple more rows. And the next time you see this, the orange will all be finished. We'll have flipped it, we'll have done orange and yellow. It's gonna look really cool, I'm super excited. And then we're gonna show you how to weave in the ends, because that's a little tricky, but it's gonna be super cool. Now the other thing they say is you can coat this whole thing in Mod Podge when you're all done. I don't really wanna coat things in Mod Podge because even though yes, it would make it waterproof, you're gonna lose some flexibility, and honestly I feel like you're gonna lose a little coolness. It's up to you, all right? If you have any questions, there are lots of tutorials on our Pinterest page. You're welcome to give us a call, and there will of course be written instructions included with your kit. Okay? Everybody have a great one. We'll see you in just a few minutes, or just a few seconds really, through the magic of television, when we finish this up and weave in all of our ends. Okay, so through the magic of television, we have finished weaving 2 glorious coasters. I think this one looks more like a baby duck. It looks pretty white on the camera, but trust me, it's yellow, so it looks like baby duck colors. I already wove the ends in on this side, so you can see it looks pretty nice. Okay. I started to do it on this side so that I could make sure everything worked. Okay. So we have a couple different instances here. One, we have the instance of, this is where we have the 2 colors that need to be woven in. So I've already woven the red one in on this side. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put my needle up through the weaving, and I can make this go up as far as I want. Since we're going into the orange, that makes it kind of easy. That's why we don't pull it tight on the ends. Okay? We don't pull it tight on the ends so that we have room to come in. Can only get a weird angle here. Hang on one second, folks. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're gonna start weaving in the ends. Since I'm weaving the orange up through and we're going back up into the orange, I can go ahead and weave this all the way up, okay? So I'm going to put my needle in first, and then I'm going to thread it, because if you try to do it with this tiny little tail, it's not going to work. Okay? And then I'm just going to pull that through. Now I can adjust. See, that's why we got to make sure. If you do that, in this case, the only reason this is an issue is because it is a color change, and I need to be sure that I loop it through that first color in the color change. So see, I can come back with my glorious plastic needle, and I can pull this guy out. Okay. I'm like, what's the problem? Oh yes, there are 2 layers of orange yarn here, so it makes it hard to see. This is also why having fingernails can be useful. Okay, there it is. If we unravel our yarn a little bit, that is okay. Everyone will survive. We will all live to tell the tale. I'm actually going to come back 1 in the red, and then come through the one that I need. And then, oops, up through all the other reds. And we're going to do that again. It doesn't want to go. So, actually, I think the problem is this needs to lace through here. That's my problem. Okay. I'm glad that I'm having this problem where you can see it, so that if it happens to you, you're able to fix it. The other nice thing about these big needles is I don't have to be tidy with my yarn, okay? All right, that's what I want. That's woven through there. And then I'm gonna come back one down here. Nope. One up here. That's how I unwove it in the first place. All right. Okay. Pull that guy through. Everything is nice and secure. I can rearrange it a little bit as needed. Okay. And then I'm going to trim this. And I can trim it close because it's stuck in all of these. After I untie this, after I cut this, everything's going to get tied up at the ends. Okay. Now at the top where I finished, what I want to do is I actually kind of want to loop this guy around and through itself just once, just to secure it a little bit to that thread. Okay. And then I'm going to come back, and if I don't want to do the one on the end, I can always come and do the next one up. So instead of doing this thread, I'm doing one over. And you want to send it through, you know, a few loops. It doesn't have to go all the way through. We're going to trim it, so it'll be all right. Okay. Pull that up through. Okay. Do a little rearrange, make sure everything still looks good. Trim this guy. Okay. Now, the reason I wanted to save these two is because I have two threads. This is the old one. This is the new one. I want to weave the old one, that this is, all this yarn down here belongs to this thread. I want to take it up through all of these. Okay. Maybe not all of them, but we're going to take it up through there. Because this yarn is a different string than this yarn. So I want to be sure that these two guys are held together. So I'm going to cross them. Okay? So this one has now been woven up this way. And now we're going to weave this one down this way. Because this is the new thread and we want it to be attached to the old thread. And this is the easiest way to do it. One more. There we go. Okay. You'll notice I am moving my little loom around a lot. That is okay. You got to do what you got to do to get it in the right position. Okay. Pull that guy through. Rearrange it a little bit. Kind of spread it out. Trim my little thread. If I want, I could come back and I could put glue or something in there, but I'm not in a hurry to do that. What I am in a hurry to do is cut my threads off my loom. Apparently my scissors don't want to cut today. They say, but Miss Karissa, it's summer. Why would we ever want to work? Okay, there we go. Now, the nice thing is you could then reuse this to make more. So that's why we did these, we cut these pretty deep so that they would be able to make more coasters if you so desire. Okay. And then this guy, they don't want to let go. There we go. So on our thing we have 2 coasters, and I'm going to cut these guys. And then this guy can get cut too. So to be sure that nothing unravels, now we're going to tie these. So we're going to take a pair at a time, and we're just going to tie a square knot. Okay. So our first and second rows are tied together, our third and fourth rows. Just a regular old square knot. If you want to be fancy and you know other knots, you are welcome to use them. I don't know very many knots, so I just make do with what I've got. And this is a quick and easy one to do. Okay. Don't pull it too tight. Don't be like me, be like you, be better. All right. There. And so what we're getting is this nice finished edge. And then you see, okay, well, we've got these tassels. If you can trim them to whatever length you want. Okay? And if you get to the end, then you have an extra one, because let's face it, life always happens. If you get to one end and you have an extra one, then what I would do is I would probably tie it through. I would tie it to the next over pair. Okay. So I'm going to put you on pause for just a moment. I will be right back with these all tied off. You'll get to see the finished product, and we'll talk about trimming up the ends. Okay? Okay, all of our knots are tied and glorious, and I know it gets a little narrow there. That's okay. I just pulled that guy out a little bit. All right. I want my tassels to at least be equal length. So I'm going to fold my coaster in half, and I'm going to line up my two edges. And then I'm going to start trimming. Okay. Whoops. Let's try to do this better. I'm going to brush them all out so they're all standing as tall as they can. Okay. As we get to the end, there we go. You have this wonderful little coaster that you made with your very own hands and all of your yarn, and it looks fantastic. You actually have two of them. I know they don't quite match. That's okay. This one will be done in just a moment. I figured you didn't want to watch me tie all my ends in on this one too, but you've got two great coasters, one loom, and lots of yarn. Thank you once again for joining us for week 2 of Colorful Crafts. I want to thank you and let you know that this week our word is salmon, S-A-L-M-O-N, salmon, which is how I say it. Others say salmon. I'm going to let you guys duke it out in the comments. Just wanted to let you know, now you can get your badge for watching our video. You all have a great one, and we'll see you next week.